cents.
The Football Show
on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch Premier League, Women's Super League, EFL, Scottish Premiership and much more. Live on Sky Sports.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Now you're welcome along to the Football Show. So Kenny Cunningham's in the studio. He's watching Chelsea against Lille. We're 48 minutes on the clock. It is 1-0 to Chelsea. Kai Havertz with the goal. Kai Havertz, who is in for Romelu Lukaku this evening, dropped. Rested? Dropped. What are we saying, Kenny? Dropped.
No, I'd lean more towards rested. Rested, I've got to be honest with you.
You're just being difficult. Clearly dropped. As Chris Sutton said in his piece in the Mail today, I would be embarrassed if I'd only had 7 touches in a game. That was before Chris Sutton had his what he describes as his trophy-laden period at Celtic.
I think that's too easy, though, to be honest with you.
I know.
That's too easy to criticism delayed his door. You know, you could argue, I've got to open that conversation out then in terms of type of service that he's getting, and you know what I mean?
Well, what have you seen from Lukaku and his teammates?
No, I think he's been let down a little bit in terms of people around, not just people around him, just in terms of maybe the instruction that they're getting as well from the side. Because Lukaku's the type of centre forward, as much as he cost, John, as good as he is, he's still a specific type of centre forward that you have to play very much to his strengths. And his strengths really haven't changed too much. He's polished his game and he's got better the last couple of years, particularly since he's gone to Italy and probably worked under Kante. But fundamentally, he hasn't changed that much as a player. He's still at his best, really, when he's facing the opposition goal and he's running into space and onto the ball. And when he isn't, and when he's got his back to goal in around the opposition in the penalty box, he's generally at his best just staying away from the ball, letting it go to wide areas and getting good quality delivery into the box so he can go and attack. So I actually think he's been let down a little bit by the team setup in that respect. So I can understand his frustration a little bit.
So everything you've described there, I think we can all see that in our mind's eye. We've seen Lukaku. Explain to me how the Chelsea setup is letting him down. What's it asking him to do that he's...
Yeah, well, I don't think the problem is necessarily with the set in terms of the formation. I mean, tonight they're playing like 3-4-3, which they play a lot of, but the two wide men are narrowed up to him, so you can get a lot of in that system. You get a lot of the width from the wing backs, but those narrowed up wide men as well can get into wide areas and put delivery into the box. So it's just kind of a mentality. It's almost instruction in terms of when we get the ball into wide areas, we get beyond the 18-yard box. Let's look to put that ball early into the box. And very often what you see with Chelsea, not the only ones in the modern game, when they get into those areas, sometimes wingers, wide men, wing backs, whatever, are reluctant just to put that ball into an area and take a gamble on the cross, and invariably they'll check back and they'll play the percentage pass. They'll keep possession. You know, possession is king, as we're constantly being told. So they'll come back at the inside, play it back to a centre midfielder, play it back to a centre half, maybe move the ball over to the other side of the pitch and kind of start again. And it looks great. They're keeping possession, they're making the other team run, but yet they've given up the opportunity to put good quality ball into the box, which really what Lukaku kind of thrives on. So that's just kind of one example for us. So for me, it's not so much.
But he can't be blameless.
No, he can't. No, he can't be blameless. I think where he can help himself in terms of the quality of his movement inside the box at times. I think he's a little bit static at times. I'm looking at him when they do get into those wide areas, and maybe at times those wide men are looking into the box, and sometimes you're waiting for the movement, Joe. And I've played fullback often enough. You get into those advanced areas and make you hard to put a cross into the box, and good players, not saying myself. Put myself into that category, but they have a quick look, peripheral vision, and you're looking at your centre forward movement. Is he getting across the front? Do I need to stand this up to the back post? Can I just forward that across the near post? Is he giving me any encouragement that he's going to make that run? And sometimes I look at Lukaku, I'm not quite sure. He's not quite doing one or the other.
Yeah.
He's off the shoulder of the first defender, but he's not quite looking as if he's going to accelerate beyond him to the near post. He's not really pulling off the back of him for the ball to be stood up.
Well, that's
so there's a little bit of everything in that respect.
In my vastly limited knowledge compared to you, when I watch Chelsea play and watch Lukaku, too often he seems like a striker whose runs don't demand the pass.
Yeah.
And there's a degree of, I'm sort of in a neck of the woods where you might think about giving it to me, but I'm not just showing you the pass with my run. And lots of good strikers, the way they run and the way they move God, it's obvious what they want. The pictures make clear.
Yeah.
He's just kind of like hovering around there a little bit too much
is,
for
but
me.
then I think it's a bit of the old chicken and the egg one, isn't it? Because I think when you get to that point where you're making those runs, the ball isn't coming, and in your head you're thinking this ball's just going to go backwards. What's the point? You lose a bit of confidence, and you're sat in there. You're a bit despondent. So I think it's a little bit of everything. I don't think it needs a massive adjustment. Some people will argue, he's not getting the best out of him in a 3. I think that's too simple.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very successful with Martinez at Inter Milan playing in a pair. And I think really there's not too many strikers who would say to you, I want to play my own. The last thing I want to do is play with a partner 10, 15 yards. That's the ideal. But he's more than capable of playing in the 3. He's played that way for his country as well, Belgium. So he can function in this system. I just think shouldn't get too carried away with the actual tactical setup, the formation. It's just in terms of putting it into practice, in terms of the things that we're talking about, get the ball into wide areas, get good quality delivery into the box. And another thing I'd say, which is going to help, I might have said it earlier as well, Chelsea committing more bodies into the box would help them. Flood the penalty box with more bodies, Joe. You know what happens. Then you occupy defenders. They don't just have to worry about Lukaku then. Then it's about the opposite winger flying into the box, the opposite wing backs coming. Maybe one of those central midfielders is making a late run into the box. And that's freeing up a little bit of space for Lukaku as well. So I think it's a combination of all those little things that I'm talking about, little improvements that can be made to get the best out of him.
I don't quite buy it myself, but it's been put out there as a possibility as Alonso shoots and ball is blocked. Still Chelsea 1-0. That Lukaku went and did his interview, upset the dressing room, and therefore this could be a personality-based thing as well. Are you seeing instances where players have a pass on to Lukaku, should really pass to Lukaku, and if it was anybody but Lukaku, would have passed to Lukaku? You're not seeing anything like that?
No. I'm not buying into that one at all. I think what he said was pretty weak, really. He was ill-advised to say it, but I can't imagine anybody in that dressing room would have been upset with what he said, would have taken as a personal slight to the team, etc., etc. And from what I can tell of Lukaku and people you hear speak about him, very popular player within every dressing room.
Seems like a decent fella.
Yeah, and you get a bit of a sense of that when you see him around, even like pre-match and small things like that, how he engages with the other players. So I don't buy that at all in terms of players and kind of picking him out. Like I said, I think it's just in terms of how the players are drilled, the individual qualities of the players, the technical nature of the players, being a little bit reluctant to put that ball early into the box when they have the ability to come on the inside and look for little combinations, be a little bit more cleverer in their approach play. That's the type of approach play, really, which Lukaku has never excelled at.
And what's your sense of Tuchel's opinion now? So they bought him for 97 million. Let's imagine somebody comes in with an offer of 75 million for Lukaku. Do you think Tuchel would say to himself, yeah, you know what, if you're going to give me that 75 million, and we take the 15 million loss in Lukaku, I'm happy to let him go? Because the general sense is Tuchel's looking at him and he's not really a fan at this
maybe
stage.
so. He might be thinking that privately. I think he'd be foolish though, because like I'm saying, I don't think Chelsea necessarily have to invent the wheel in terms of how they're playing to get more out of Lukaku. For me, it's kind of small adjustments that they have to make and prioritise certain things. And the things I'm talking about, putting early balls into the box. I mean, you're not compromising your whole philosophy, but putting it early. I mean, Aspilicueta done it tonight, didn't he? Got played in, first time ball across the 6-yard box. Havertz put it over the crossbar, didn't he? That's the type of ball that we're talking about. That Lukaku needs to feed off. Now, Havertz was on the run. He got across his back. He got between defenders. So he was quite dynamic in his movement. We're talking about that as well. That's what Lukaku has to do. But that's the type of ball that I'm talking about that he needs more of. Aspilicueta to a certain extent can do it. I tell you who can do it. And it's a big miss for the Chelsea team. Reece James is as good as anybody now in the modern game. Wing back in terms of when he gets into the last third, Joe, within 5-10 yards outside the 18-yard box, let alone when he gets beyond the delivery into the box. That whip cross that beats the first man, flat whip pace, just crying out for someone to get on the end of it. He'll certainly be helped when he comes back into the team. But it wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. But that's a conversation at the end of the year that maybe Tuchel. He's got to be in a strong position, though. Joe, I'd argue, to go to the Chelsea board and say, look, I want this fella out. You know, he needs to make sure he finishes the season with a trophy or two and finishes strongly in the league. And then maybe he can knock on the door of Marina Granicakova, whatever her name is, and demand that. It's happened before, isn't it?
Yeah. Chris Sutton. Yes. He's writing about it in the Mail. He said he'd be embarrassed to touch the ball 7 times in a match. By the way, Jamie Vardy touched the ball just 9 times against Crystal Palace in 2018 across 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Not all about touches.
Well, there's some players centre forwards. Michael Owen was a little bit like that as well. I always got the impression early on in his career that wasn't overly interested in terms of get me a touch, get me involved. Some players, like very quick in their career, centre forwards in particular, understand I know what my strengths are. And of course, as a young player, you hope to improve and you're going to work on your game and polish your game, you hope. But fundamentally, some players, this is what I'm good at.
Yeah.
And this is what's going to get me a living and this is going to get me the big move. And Michael Owen, to be fair to him, what I give him credit for, you thought he was smart, even as a young player, didn't overly look to involve himself all the time, wasn't overly bothered. It went 10 minutes, he didn't get a touch, but he was waiting. He was waiting on the shoulder. He was drifting across the front, in between centre forwards, particularly centre halves, particularly that space between centre half and full back, and just waiting for that one incisive pass in behind him. Bang, he was on it. Finish. Good luck. You're not going to see me for another 10, 15 minutes. He was that mould, Owen, all through his career. That was the type of player he was. Vardy's the same. Those type of players, you feel not bothered.
Yeah.
You could throw that stat with them all day, and it doesn't bother me at all.
I scored 3.
I'll get that. I'll bank myself that one chance. I'm going to find the back of the net. Now he looks a little bit different to me, Lukaku. I wouldn't put him in that mould. His body language suggests he likes a little bit more involvement. You know what I mean? He wants to be involved a little bit more. Hence his kind of frustration that we're seeing.
I'm kind of surprised it's gone this way, because do you remember one of his early games away to Arsenal? And now it was largely on Arsenal as well that they didn't have anybody in front of him. As Chelsea go on the attack here, maybe a chance blazed over the bar. No Lukaku to cross it to. But
Kante flying into the box, unbelievable.
The ball was played into Lukaku's feet loads that day at the Emirates. Just remember it, because it was a real afternoon where people thought Chelsea could do something serious this year, and this was maybe the missing piece of the jigsaw. And I kind of thought, well, he's got almost an instant connection here with balls into feet, and then he's busting someone out of the way, and he almost played a 1-2 with someone out wide, bustled someone out of the way, gave it out wide, ran into the box, squared, scored, and you thought, well, this is perfect. That's why it's kind of confusing that they seem to have lost that connection or lost him as a focal point. I don't really understand why that would have happened.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think that's it. I don't see it beyond that. I don't look too deep. Obviously, there's a bit of a lack of confidence at the moment. That can be huge, particularly in strikers. Lose a bit of confidence in yourself. I mean, that's not a switch you can just switch on and off. Even a player as good as him and as much as he's cost, even that will affect him in terms of confidence. Like even tonight, would have been an easy decision to stand them down when you've gone so many games not scoring. The temptation is keep him in there. You want him to can he get through? But I don't think this is a case of just play him and he's going to come out the other end if nothing changes. If the things that we're talking about don't change, well, don't be surprised if he never gets on that run, 6, 7, 8 goals, 8 games between now and the end of the season. I think those changes need to come. And even the players themselves, I think Lukaku himself, I'd like to think that's a pretty tight group. Some talented players there, smart players in that team. Yeah. The likes of Jorginho, Mount, Pulisic, really clever operators, Havertz. Can't tell me Jordan training during the week, they aren't having conversations and Lukaku isn't getting this across. Look, just feel as if that ball isn't coming in early. Make one less passes. Get me in early into the space.
Yeah, strange.
All these type of things. Yeah.
They do have an odd history, Chelsea, actually, just as a final point in all this, of struggling strikers or big-name strikers who go there and don't quite flourish the way you might think. So I was just having a look. Shevchenko
was finished a little bit. Yeah,
he was a bit finished, I'll give you that.
By the time he went there, you could argue maybe the same with Torres even to an extent.
2011. Yeah. Falcao was there for a season, 15 to 16. Morata was there for
Falcao was,
years.
Awful injury.
It was. Higuain went there. Didn't quite happen for Higuain. And of course, before his trophy-laden period at Celtic, Chris Sutton. So I don't know. That's a lengthy-ish list for some big names,
Yeah, but I don't think you can actually join the dots there because
I know
you
can't.
Chelsea teams, different managers, different styles of play. The whole
media
shebang,
talk,
isn't it?
Kenny, it's media talk.
Yeah, it's an interest. Yeah, I can understand it.
It's a graphic in the corner of a newspaper, but it's not worth analysing. But it is just kind of notable.
But I think they'll need to. I'm surprised Chelsea are in this position. Start of the season, I really felt as if they could push.
Same.
Them Liverpool and Man City could potentially go to the wire. But that was always dependent on in terms of Lukaku coming in there and maybe 15, 20 league goals and people around them kind of chipping in. So, without that, they're not going to make that because they've been behind since they won the title under Kante, Joe. It's been a struggle in terms of the gap between them and the Liverpool, and it hasn't been good enough.
No, it's never going to happen for Timo Werner, is it?
No, not for me. I think I'd be surprised if he's still there next season. Werner, now it's been a bit of a struggle for him, and he looks as if to me he's kind of switched off a little bit.
Did you think when he arrived he was going to score goals? Had you seen enough of him?
I've seen a lot of him play. I liked him. Played well at Leipzig for a long period of time. Dynamic, mobile.
Was he a flat track bully though?
I wouldn't go that far. I think that'd be too dismissive of him. I think he had a decent all-round game, but he was one of them in behind, off the shoulder. I'm talking about own off the shoulder. Good turn of pace, kind of quite dynamic, close control, decent enough in tight areas. That's a good goal there. Who's finished that? Pulisic.
Brilliant run from Kante to set him up as well. Kante ran about 20-30 yards with the ball and delicate little pass. Everyone's kind of realised far too late in life that Kante's a brilliant all-round footballer. He's not like just a defensive midfielder who nicks the ball. Going forward, he's outstanding.
Probably the last, I'd say, 2 or 3 years we've seen that. He's been, whether he's, demanded more of himself or, managers have been more open to him making those runs. But that championship winning team at Leicester, he just never got beyond the ball in that him and Drinkwater. You remember how good he was. But certainly the last 2 or 3 years, because I suppose I do it myself as well in terms of your pigeonhole players, particularly centre midfielders nowadays. 6, he's an attacking A. He just sees defensive player. He's an attacking midfielder. Yeah. But there's still those orthodox box to box. They're still there, and he's actually one of them. You're absolutely right. If I'd been overly critical of him, I'd say probably his finishing probably lets him down a little bit. But as in terms of his ability to travel out of possession, Joe, and in possession as well, he travelled that speed in possession up to a point, and he'll look to play people in. Did it a couple of times first half. So you're absolutely right. Those players are still around, and he's actually one of them. He's just kind of disciplined himself, isn't he, to play that role. Roy was a little bit like that, I thought, when he there was a point at Manchester United. Roy forged his reputation at Notts Forest, like the box to box, Roy having goals, assists, and even when he went to Manchester United, there was a flavour of that. But at a point at Manchester United, he was asked to play a different role, wasn't he? And he had to discipline himself to play that kind of. Well, and he was as good as any, but he could have. I think in particular when Scholes came in and he was just the designated midfielder to break, and of course Beckham and Giggs got forward. But before that, you remember some of the goals he scored. The famous one against Man City where he slides into the back post, the cross from Dennis Irwin in the rain. Yeah, he was up and down, could do everything. Yeah, but that was like probably Roy himself appreciating that, looking at Scholes and the makeup of the team and saying, this is the role now I have to play. It's for what's best for the team. It wasn't about him going and getting his quota of goals or assists. What was needed from him then was to play a defensive role within the team. So that's like smart, and you're kind of sacrificing yourself for the team. Probably Kante at Leicester as well. You look at that Leicester team, if there was any kind of weakness, hardly a weakness, they won the league, but the two centre-halves, Morgan and Huth, weren't the quickest, were they? You always told, get them 1v1, get down the sides or isolate them. But so I'd like to think Kante had a look at that and thought, well, I can't leave these two. I've got to stay within 10 yards. I've got to screen them, got to stop balls going in front. And if the ball does play down the side, I've got to put me in a position I can get around them and actually cover them as well. So he probably kind of sacrificed a bit for himself as well at that Leicester City team, and that's what you have to do. I admire that. Yeah, that's smart. He is just a phenomenal player. So he set up Pulisic. It was a great run by Kante, laid it off to Pulisic, and Pulisic dinked it over the keeper. So that's 2-0 Chelsea with 66 minutes on the clock. That'll do them now, won't it? I'd say they're in good shape. Oh yes, so I want to talk to you about Manchester United because Miguel Delaney has a big piece in the London Independent today about the various issues behind the scenes. You won't be surprised to hear there are lots of issues behind the scenes. We're going to do that after the break. Before we go to the break, that Michael Owen that you mentioned, 98, I suppose, 97, 99, 2000, when he had that electric pace and might have involved himself much in the game. Did you play against him much in that period? Yeah, I did actually, yeah. I played him when he made his debut, actually. He's made his debut against us. The 1-0, and he scored. Yeah. Was it a winner or was it an equaliser? Equaliser, I think. Yeah. Where were you for that? Yeah, I know. Out of position, I think, when somebody shouted to me within the last year or so. I didn't realise you played in that game. So when he came off the bench, I don't know how good communications were then. I guess when Rooney came off the bench a number of years later, everybody had heard about Rooney in the game. Had you heard about Michael Owen? This kid was coming. I think there would have been. Yeah, there would have been. It would have been aware, like, yeah. But funny enough, that finished that night was just a ball played in behind. I think it was one touch inside of his right foot, guided into the far. And it was probably 70% of the goals that he scored, 75% in his career. I actually feel as though Michael Owen was quite... People say to me the best finisher you ever... I mean, Michael Owen probably wouldn't get into my top 10. I wouldn't even think of him, to be honest with you. You know, I didn't think he was actually... It's a funny thing to say, the goals that he scored. I didn't think he was the greatest of finishers. You know, everything almost seemed to be that right foot, open your body, guided finish. That bit of a Thierry Henry went inside the far post. You know, totally unlike, say, Fowler, who'd left foot, right foot, drilled through the laces. Did you ever remember Michael Owen scoring a goal, just drilling it through his laces?
I wouldn't have said Michael Owen jumped out to you as having this phenomenal eye-catching technique, really.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. But that's why you have to admire him.
Such a harsh thing to say.
No, but what got him his goals was his brain. He was smart. This is what I'm saying. Michael Owen was smart at a very early age and realised these are my strengths and this is going to get me to where I'm going to go. And he did that all during his career. He went to Madrid. Remember watching him at Madrid. Not interested. Boom. One ball over the top, in goal.
Yeah. Well, I remember going to see Manchester United in a Champions League game, and it was when Owen was there, and he was way past his best then. And he came off the bench in this game, and I was behind the goal view.
Right.
And it was such a contrast with the previous 60, 70 minutes in that things had looked very stagnant. And he came on, and he must have made, you know, United had possession going back and forth outside the opposition penalty area. He must have made 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mini runs here, there. I'll spin this way, I'll go that way. The opposite to Lukaku, what you're talking about. And these weren't runs you'd necessarily see on the TV. And I remember sitting there going, I never realised this guy's movement was so clever and everywhere. Because you just think of Michael Owen, you think ball over the top. But this was really clever stuff.
Yeah, subtle, yeah.
And I remember Gary Neville said he didn't realise how good he was at that stuff until he joined United.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
He almost struck me as like a continental type centre, somebody who'd been schooled on the continent, like traditionally, you know, you say Italy, for example. I noticed when I first stepped up to international football, in terms of I might have spoken about it before on one or two occasions, the quality, the movement of players, continent players, in terms of how they were schooled, young players, old players, it didn't matter. Like made huge demands on you. You know, you had to constantly be looking for them. You couldn't find them. They were off your shoulder. They weren't in your peripheral vision. You couldn't see them. You had to go searching, take your eyes off the ball. You know, you took your eye off them and found the ball. That was their trigger to make a run.
Yes.
By the time you looked for them again, 2 seconds later, they were gone. That wasn't just coincidence. That happened time and time again. And you didn't experience that really in the Premier League. Not back then. I never saw that type of movement.
Yeah.
It was only when I played international football that I got schooled in that a little bit. And you had to learn pretty quickly. You know, that was some smart movement there. And Owen had a bit of that from an early age. That was the type of movement that I'm talking about. Didn't walk in front of you, Joe. Stand 3-4 yards in front of you. You could see him. You could see the ball. Both there. Yeah, I'm happy with what I'm seeing. You know, you couldn't find them. You know, constantly looking over shoulder where you didn't want to. You always want to have your eyes trained on the ball. That's a natural. You want to follow the ball all the time, don't you? Because you have to adjust your position according to where the ball is on the pitch. So looking for the ball and constantly looking for where your man is. That's annoying. Yeah, it is like edgy. You get a little bit edgy.
Yeah.
And of course, if you get lazy and you focus on the ball watch, and we all know what it is, we've all done it. The very best centre forwards with the good movement, you know, hurt you. There was one game I remember, obviously not making all this about myself, but I remember going to Stamford Bridge when I was with Birmingham, when I was getting on a bit. I would have been early, mid-30s. And to be honest with you, physically, probably legs going a little bit. But played Crespo, played that year for Chelsea. It might have been his first year, and I never played against him. But I watched a lot of him play. He played in Italy quite a bit. And I'd always looked at him. He's a very good player, but I always thought, funny enough, he's not like overly quick. Not massively overly quick, yeah, as others would have been. Physically, not the most imposed. Yeah, technically decent, but he was always a player I thought, yeah, a good player, obviously, but not one outstanding attribute. That game at Chelsea, Joe, it was like I was like a spinning top. Exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, I see him. There he is. Look to the ball. Look back, and I'm talking a second. And as I look back,
gone.
Just wind as he gets across the front of me, and you can't react. And you understand that you actually don't have to be the quickest. If the timing of your run is good enough in behind, and the ball arrives at the right time, you forget it. You're absolutely done. And the amount of times, and I was quite experienced. at that time, but they used to do me time and time. I couldn't find them.
Do you know, if there's any young strikers listening to this, it could be such an interesting insight, because they would never have played as a defender. So they wouldn't appreciate, from a centre-half's point of view, that level of comfort that you have if in a glance you've got, I can see the ball and I can see you. So get out of your peripheral vision. And it sounds like what you're describing, it sounds like they're taking into account, they're also watching you, watching the ball, and they're watching what you're looking at, and they're almost picking your worst nightmare moment to make the move.
Yeah.
So it's not just the ball the striker's watching, he's almost keeping an eye on you, and he sees you glancing here, glancing there. He's taking his eye off me, he's back to the ball, now I can go.
Yeah.
That's real intelligence. I don't think
that's the trigger, but that's good for me, that was like, that's good coaching.
Well,
good
I was going to say,
schooling.
I'm not sure Irish kids growing up are being told as strikers, watch the centre-half's eyes, this is how you make his life a nuisance. That's where actually, as a centre-half, you could coach a striker really well.
No, I think you're right, yeah. But that's what I think, coaching that type of, maybe in my day, there would have been that amount of coaching, or that level of coaching was available. You probably experienced a little bit of that. That's changed now a little bit. The academy system now, a lot of good coaches in there, so kids are getting that type of information. Now, you wouldn't say there's that big disparity now between the quality of coaching, saying the continent and what you're getting in England. But I think it's very interesting. It just goes to show you there's still a living to be made in the game, even at the highest level. You know, if you look at a kid, nowadays coaches, I imagine, they look at forwards now, young kids, what's he got? Where's that physicality? Where's the speed? High level of technical ability. These are all the tick boxes, aren't they, in terms of what they're looking for? You know, if they don't see any of those three things, you know, it's like, what am I looking at here? But for me, the conversations, when I listen to conversations, what do you look for in players? What are the attributes? There's always one, people have always got their tick box, 3, 4, probably like what I'm talking about there, physicality, pace, and the whole shebang. But for me, whatever area of the pitch you're on, for me, I always felt was like intelligence. Football intelligence for me trumped out anything. And that's any area of the pitch. Centre forward, centre half, full back, centre, midfield. Give me a team of players who have that football intelligence. Yeah. I'll take that over anything. Yeah. I can do something with that team. And
did Teddy Sheringham live up to his billing as this intelligent footballer to play against? That's always said about him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, smart. Now, Teddy had a high level of technical ability. Well, I will say
True.
that.
Yeah. Lovely footballer.
And I played with Teddy at Millwall for a few years. And the last year, actually, before he went to Forest, I played at Mill. I was in the team then at Millwall a bit. And he played, and Joe, talk about somebody on a different planet. And that's not being disrespectful to the other players in the team. But he scored like 36 goals that season for Millwall. I think we finished playoffs or just outside. And he was just walking around the pitch. He was dropping into midfield, picking up the ball, starting off at sacks, getting in the pockets, finishing, absolutely everything. But yeah, never had that pace. One paced.
Yeah.
Yeah, physically wouldn't bully people. Had a
good size.
Had a good frame, but technically very good. But
this is
smart.
why
the smarts.
The man could play until he was 40. You know, that's why. When he's 40 years old, he wouldn't.
Where's just speaking about him, weren't we, a week or two ago? Yeah. But it's the same type of thing, isn't it? People who've never depended on their, that kind of athleticism, really, that kind of turn of pace. It's always been smart, technically good, smart operators, good understanding of the game. As long as your body doesn't fail you, you'll always earn a living. It's
a good insight into Crespo, because I agree with you. If you were to say to me or most people, what was Crespo? What made him devastating? People would be like,
it's not that standout, is there?
It just was, That's obviously it.
Well, Chris Sutton. Now you started the conversation on Chris. When Chris came up to Birmingham a bit later, but even
was when that after his trophy-laden period?
He certainly didn't add to his trophy cabinet at Birmingham. He had a grim reality shock when he arrived there. Yeah, but Chris never would have been, that great, turn of pace, leave you.
So what did he have?
Well, he had a little bit of aggression to him, but and a good technique. Actually, I didn't realise how good he was technically till he came to Birmingham. They arrive and within a week on the training pitch, I think, wow, didn't I actually you were that good? Yeah. And he was one who came technically, and then obviously very smart between the ears, Chris. And another one of them was, for me, who arrived at Birmingham at the same time, Darren Anderson. And Anderson was obviously the great career. It wasn't as if, I didn't know he was a good player. Yeah. But he's always like crazy legs craned a little bit, wasn't he, Darren Anderson? Spurs, physically wasn't quite in proportion. I mean, he done great things at Spurs and was a great player. But I actually didn't realise how good he was. He probably wasn't at his best now when he came to Birmingham. Otherwise, he would have been at Birmingham at the time. Don't get me wrong. And he didn't actually play a lot when he got there. Boy, God, Joe, on the training pitch.
Quality.
Oh, my God. And he wasn't that orthodox, like I'm saying, low centre gravity, centre midfield play, dropping the shot.
Long
like a little bit leggy, crazy legs, crane, like I was saying. But balance, poise, touch. Couldn't get near him, Joe. Literally couldn't get near him.
I guess but for the injuries, I mean, he really was a big part of England under Venables, and he was at that level. The injuries probably killed him.
Yeah, it did, but just an example of, what a good player is, but it just kind of blows you away a little bit. When you see them up close, when they operate on a day-to-day basis, you think, wow, this is like, just seeing players come and playing around the corner. You just get to that point where you think, you're not going to close them down. He's just going to make a fool of me.
Right.
Yeah. He does, you know what I mean? He just pops around the corner, does you again, puts you through your legs, keep coming, there's more if you want it. And eventually the penny drops. That's what they do, good players do. They force you, end up taking a step back.
And it's like, Kenny, close him down. It's like, I'm not closing him down again. Yeah,
no, but that was great. It
must be nice to be around that kind of quality.
Yeah, it was. And I played with I was obviously very fortunate in my career and stuff like that. But that's why I didn't play at the highest level, Joe. I didn't play an elite level of international. I was looking to play at international football, but club level, I was scratching around the place. And again, not disrespectful, play with some fine players. But like now and again, those players step in. Christophe Dugarry was another one, gone back to Birmingham again.
Yeah.
Christophe came in, and French squad player and on the fringes.
If you were to say to me, Christophe Dugarry, I'd say, yeah, I'm sure he was grand.
Oh, Joe, I mean,
yeah.
Again, another one, but he actually played. Christophe came in and literally, literally everybody on his shoulders. Like it was like that trapeze act, that the circus act when he's on the bottom, you've got like a pyramid of people.
And he at the top.
On top of him, yeah. But he literally was. He had that impact as well. And it's great. I mean, that kind of talent, Joe, natural talent. Somebody who had literally, none of it to be, to be around that, to see it, that effortless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Raw talent like that is, it's great to be around it for a period of time.
I can imagine.
And good lads as well. I'd have to say that as well. Chris, bit of a smart arse. We know that, sense of humour, sarcastic, but great in the dressing room. Darren Anderton as well. Lovely fella. Absolutely lovely fella. I'll tell you one story about Dan Anderson. It's not betraying a confidence.
Can you tell it to me after the ad break?
Oh, I'll tell you after.
There's a teaser. You got to come back to us. Our football coverage is brought to you by Sky. Watch every UEFA Champions League and Europa League match live on BT Sport this season. Chelsea's still 2-0 up in the Champions League. Welcome back. Should tell you Villarreal have equalised against Juventus. So 81 minutes on the clock. Villarreal 1, Juventus 1. Still Chelsea 2-0 up against Lille. Kenny Cunningham here in studio. Darren Anderton.
Oh no, I'm not going to tell it now.
Come on.
No, the moment's gone. The moment's gone.
You're joking me.
Yeah, I'm going to park it.
I deliberately didn't say a word to you.
No, I'm going to park
during the ad break.
No, I'm going to park it.
Come on, no, tell me, please.
Again.
No, come on, please.
No.
Kenny.
No, don't do it on demand. Don't do it on demand.
You brought it up.
No, I brought it up. The moment passed.
What were you saying?
You were saying you went to a break.
Darren, he's a lovely fella, you were saying. Come on.
Don't try and tease it. I'm under pressure now.
The listeners really enjoyed.
I'm not a comedian.
They really enjoyed.
I'm not even a storyteller.
Are you kidding me?
You almost got it out of me there, but you blew it. You absolutely blew it. Later in the year, when the moment presents itself, it's a good story as well, by the way.
We just stop it. There's a load of people who sat with you all evening. Enjoyed the chat there. That was a great chat, great insights. Darren Anderton, come on. I remember Darren. Let's go. Go on. Give us a
what it was. He took us down to Bournemouth when he's at for a Christmas party. He took the responsibility on. That was an easy thing. I brought the lads to Dublin the year before, and it was a top notch. The lads loved it.
Went down well.
Yeah. So he was bang under pressure. The lads were on him. Where are you going to take us, Daz? Who's right? Bournemouth. He booked us down to Bournemouth the weekend. This kind of Christmas parties when you could actually go and have a Christmas party, and it didn't end up on social media.
Yeah, no camera phones.
Yeah, went down after a game. Got a coach down to Bournemouth. He sorted it all out. Checked into the hotel. Went to a bar in the town. Saturday night, walked in. Oh, good lads, having a few drinks. Happy days. And as you did back then, a few lads coming up. I was actually standing with Darren at the time. A few lads came, well, all right, Daz, yeah, he's a bit of a superstar that part of the world down in Bournemouth. All right, Daz, how's it going? Yeah, all
he's
good.
He's from Bournemouth, is he?
Yeah, he's from that kind of area. So he was good as gold. Picture, Daz, picture. So, you're always, yeah, okay, yeah, no problem. So this fella, as he was asked for the picture, went, yeah, cheers, Daz, I appreciate it. Or should I call you sick now?
Oh, no.
So obviously he had a reputation then of being obviously missing games to injury, and he would have got this sick now thing. He must have been absolutely sick of it. Because it ran and ran, didn't it, year in, year out.
Well, it was his nickname.
Yeah, sick now.
Yeah.
So it was like, and this thought he was being funny, this lad. This was as if the first time, they all think it's the first time Daz has heard it. So he said, sorry, lad. He went, yeah, sick now. You said, all right, I call you sick now. And he said, did you, no, not sick now, lad. And he said, what do you mean? He went, pound now. And the lad actually didn't register. And the lads were like, yeah, good one. He just like looked away and took another sip of his drink.
The hassle of having lads come up to you, giving you the sick note thing, I can only imagine.
Yeah, and Darren wouldn't have been one like very successful and obviously earned very well out of the game. I would have thought, but never. You wouldn't have known. Very modest.
Low-key.
Very quite humble. Yeah, and low key. So actually, when he said it was actually quite unusual when he came, but his delivery was great. He kind of pulled the lad in close. He went, no, not sick now, mate. Your man was like, oh yeah, what? Pound now.
Did Darren Anderton go into coaching? Or is he just...
No, I don't think he did actually, Tim. I think he was doing a bit of TV. I've noticed he's done a little bit of... he loved his golf. I know that. He loved his golf.
Maybe he's just enjoying life.
Yeah, I think so. He's one of them very laid-back character. Really kind of laid-back laddie. Wouldn't have necessarily said one for pushing himself in any one area. But very affable, lovely fella. And like I said, what a
quality, yeah.
Oh, what a talent, yeah.
Yeah, because actually, when you went, in fairness to Sheringham, I like the technique there was incredible. He made so many things look very, very easy. Just had a great natural technique about him. Yeah,
that was a good team they had there, wasn't it? But that was Klinsmann was in there at the time, wasn't it? Tottenham came in, Teddy was there.
Yeah.
And then a couple of little schemes, a couple of good operators then. That was a good Spurs team. Some real attacking quality on the pitch. Here's our mate Team Awareness come on.
I would think, by the way, Robbie Keane had good movement.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Same.
Spinning that way, spinning the other way.
Yeah, same I'd say. Yeah, same in terms of early on, Robbie. Yeah, absolutely natural. But Robbie was more like Jack in the Box, wasn't he, than Michael Owen. Technically, Robbie was better than Owen. Wanted to be involved, Robbie.
Often did come short, didn't he?
Yeah, did. Wanted it to his feet, wanted to be involved in the game. Obviously had the ability to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Probably more rounded, Robbie. More rounded than Michael Owen in terms of the qualities which he had. And Robbie's kind of real kind of personality as well.
He kind of
on top, wasn't he?
You could tell the way he played. There was a lot of personality there.
Yeah, but it was part of it. You couldn't take it out of him. It's what made him the player that he was. 18, whenever he was, and he stepped up club and international football. Give me the ball, give me the ball. He was that type. It was great.
Well, Niall Quinn tells a story in Niall's own autobiography where he remembers very early with Robbie being involved with the senior team, and Robbie was doing some keepy uppies before training, and he could sense Quinn watching him.
Right.
And he really wasn't in long. And he started going, "You learning something, old man? You watching?" And start doing a few tricks. And Quinn thought this was great because this spoke to someone who's not going to be phased. You need this stupid level of confidence to just go in there and do it, don't you? Especially as a striker.
But the thing is, you need to back it up, because if you can't back it up, you make yourself to be a fool.
You're a bit foolish.
People, you know what I mean? That's the end. Thing with that is you've got to be able to back it up, and obviously Robbie invariably could. You
guys must have really thought to yourself when Duffer and Robbie came in, jeez, we've got plenty here in defence. Too many defenders for your liking. We've got lots here in defence. We've got Roy Keane. This Robbie Keane kid's coming to the scene. This Duffer kid is coming to the scene. That must have been pretty exciting 18 months where you realised we really have got some stuff here which is going to hurt teams. Do you remember thinking that at the time? We could really do something.
Yeah. I'm not sure about we can really go and do something, but in terms of the qualities of them two players, yeah, absolutely. In terms of these are really going to help us. Yeah, and you're right. With a lot of options, even back in those days, we were overloaded. With some very good central midfield players, but they were more kind of defensive qualities.
Kinsella, Carsley.
Even Matty Holland, Lee Carr, even Graham Kavanagh, who all came in. Roy was as good as anybody. Roy could do everything. We know that. But those type of players, more your holding type. Yeah, they could get around the pitch, but probably at their best just slightly behind the ball. You know what I mean? But great to have in front of you. Don't get me wrong, from a centre half's point of view. So we're all like always defensively solid. Had a reasonable amount of confidence when we stepped down the pitch in terms of the defensive structure of the team, probably because of the individual qualities of those players that were on the pitch. But yeah, so you needed that. You needed that happy balance in the team, and thankfully, Duffers and Robbie came on with Kev. We had Kev operating off the left. Kev came in, didn't even play for a period of time. Totally different type of player to Duffers, but we needed him as well. His pace down the sides. He kept his width down that side of the pitch. And Duffers was more comfortable coming on the inside and slaloming his way on the little combinations and stuff like that. So, yeah, we were lucky. We're lucky to have Robbie and Duffers at the same time.
Well, just like even the way we talk about the Irish team now, and we say, well, it's so competitive in the Premier League, we can't really expect to have many players there the way we did once upon a time. But like, if you think between Roy, Duff, and Robbie Keane, if those three came along now, they'd still have no problem going very high up in the Premier League. It was amazing to kind of have them at the same time that period.
Oh yeah, I think all of those players, I'd argue, would be playing in the Premiership now. Kins, Matty Holland, Lee Carsey, all of those players, for the reasons that I've said. Yeah. Oh yeah, would still be playing in the game, because those qualities which they have for me. I know the game's changed to an extent and it's involved, but for me, players with those type of qualities, there's always a living to be made, even in the Premiership, and kind of personality as well. Strong personalities that focus and kind of drive, all those type of things. All of that team, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So people enjoying the chat and the walk down memory lane. I jotted down a bunch of things. I spent 8 to 9 sweating trying to get stuff to talk to you about. We're not going to get to any of it now. I'll touch on Miguel Delaney's piece tomorrow. Before you go, you were at Tolka on Friday.
Yeah.
Good?
Oh yeah, I enjoyed the night. What a great night. Do you know, it was great. It was great driving down down Deer Park Road into...
And do you find when you're driving down, does the Rolls Royce catch people's eye?
I thought you were talking to me as a player again, the Rolls Royce engine. Do you know what it was? Cars parking up. I mean, I got there a little bit early. I was meeting a couple of people in Fagan's pub, like I said to you a bit before. But
Virgin?
even... running for TD, North Dublin, Kenny Cunningham, watch this space. No, but cars parking up on the side. The road was shut. The road was shut.
Sense
like
of event.
Outside, talk about, there was police horses there. And I know you're saying, nobody wants to see, but still, seeing the police horses mounted, it's game on. Roads closed off. No, Fagan's was absolutely packed in there. The lads had their colours on, great.
Were fans mixing?
I didn't notice so much. Didn't notice so many same colours, to be fair, weren't they, Pat?
Yeah,
you wouldn't bloody know.
You wouldn't jump out of it, yeah.
But fair play to Pat's got a great away support there, the whole end. And what I haven't seen for a long time, Joe, supporters all around the pitch. All of both stands to the sides and behind the goals. Pat's bought a load there, great. And a really good competitive game of football. Pat's deserved it in the end. They were the stronger team. But I thought Shells acquitted themselves very well. I thought physically they stood up to the challenge. You could tell, obviously, they've been well drilled, they've been coached. Joey and Damon doing a bit of work in terms of the setup of the team, how they set up in possession, out of possession. Pats just had a little bit too much from probably higher up the pitch. Had a real cutting edge up the pitch.
You were impressed with Forrester?
Yeah, Chris took over the game. Both of them actually a good combination. Jamie Lennon thought it was dovetailed very well. Real kind of raw aggression. Jamie gets around the pitch, makes tackles, keeps it simple. But yeah, Chris took over the game. He got on the ball, range of passing, really kind of dictate. It was really great to see. And then that cutting edge high up the pitch. Darrell Burns, great first goal. Billy King, though, that real bit of quality that's probably Sheldon and I probably couldn't match in those forward areas of the pitch. But no, great night, great night all around. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And then back to Fagan's afterwards, and man of the people.
As you have to do, little debrief. It's all part of it, Joe, but isn't it? I mean, I wouldn't be, necessarily I wouldn't be that. I'm not claiming I'm one of these, down the booze and all that type, but there's something about walking to, kicking the double doors. It's like the old saloon, the old westerns, isn't it? Booting the saloon doors and walking in. I was expecting if it had been gunfire going off in there around the bar, wouldn't have surprised me.
There's a former Republic of Ireland captain in the house, everyone.
Yeah, no, it was.
Do you like? Would people be over to you much saying?
No. You might a little acknowledgement, so that's great. You know what I mean? That's the way that's the way I like it.
You're not getting mobbed. You're not getting mobbed.
That's all. I'm just there to support like everybody else. So, mind you, bloody cold. I had three layers on me. I found my old skins that I used to wear when I played football. My recovery skins. I used to wear them after games.
Yeah.
They went on. Full length tracksuit bottoms went on, and a pair of jeans.
How can you get jeans out with tracksuit bottoms?
Had his loose fitting jeans. They went. I don't usually wear
boot cuts.
They went on as well. 3 layers, Joe. 3 layers. 2 pairs of socks. Still wasn't enough.
Say they're in Fagan's going, Kenny's a bit thick there around the legs. After putting on a few.
And I want to mention as well, right?
Here we go.
One last thing, quick.
Go on.
This is the beauty. This is the beauty getting out football. Walking into me seat. Met the mum of an old lad I played football with, schoolboy football, Darren Campbell. His ma was there. He used to come out on the sidelines, cheer us on. Hadn't seen her God knows how long.
Kenneth.
Exactly. But I had a quick chit chat, lovely. Turned around to get to me seat. Another shout. An old school friend of mine from Vincent's.
Nice.
Back, and I hadn't seen him in 15 years. He actually came to Birmingham to watch me play about 15 years ago. I hadn't seen him since. Settled in France. Just popping over to Dublin, took in the game. Coincidentally, let's go and take in the Shells game with a friend of his. Bang, sat 5 yards apart.
That's beautiful. That's Dublin.
There you go. Small town.
Great. That is great. It has gone full time. So Chelsea 2-0 winners. They'll go to Lille with a very healthy lead.
I'm going to give him a mention because he listens to you.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin McGowan. He tuned you in Strasbourg in France.
Kevin McGowan.
Yeah, he has you on the wireless.
He could be listening right now.
When he's scrubbing the dishes.
He's probably listening right now going, what?
He's a big fan.
Good.
Of the station. Not so much. Didn't actually mention you by name, Joe. Indirectly.
Oh, dear. And Villarreal won, Juventus won. 95 minutes on the clock. We'll take a break.
Sports.
You're welcome back. So we've our final 2 minutes, Kenny, for thoughts of the evening. So 2-0 Chelsea, 1-1 Villarreal Juventus. We were just bemoaning off air there. We were kind of fans of the away goal and what it did to these kind of ties and the sense of jeopardy and volatility. A last minute away goal, turning the game on its head. I can't say I love that they've got rid of it.
No, I would have kept it. Personally, I think it certainly added in terms of, we were looking at the game there, 2-0 up, 10 minutes to go, and with the away goal rule in place, I think that really adds to the tension. I think it puts more demand on the Chelsea players because they realise what's at stake. They can see the goal, so that's something else which they have to deal. I think it gives encouragement to the away team to an extent. Do you think
Lille push a bit more if there's an away goal
I
there?
just think you do. I think you do push because you know what's at stake. So from both teams, I think it affects the mentality of both sets of players, and that I find that interesting. How about both sets of players, managers even in terms of tactically how they approach it in the final 10 minutes of the game. I think it tests players and it tests managers as well, and we don't have that so much now.
If they get things going, one-off knockout matches, you really wouldn't write Chelsea off under Tuchel.
For what?
Going all the way in Champions League. On any given night, they could beat anyone.
Yeah.
Who are your favourites? City? Do you think City will do it this year?
Yeah. I think if he leaves it alone.
I
think if he leaves it alone.
That's it. It's not as big an if, I feel, as it was a couple of years ago, but it's still an if.
But he done it again the weekend, I noticed. I mean, I didn't see the game, watched the highlights of the Man City game. I saw Bernardo Silva playing as the false 9.
Yeah, it's 6 up front at one stage.
Yeah, but Bernardo's, I know they play with that false 9, but there's some players better suited to it than others. He threw Grealish in there, false 9 at Liverpool there in the season. He didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
Didn't know what he was doing. And Bernardo Silva has absolutely excelled in that left-sided number 8 position. We talk about advanced midfield. He's been as good as anybody in that position. Take him out there and put him into...
Pep went into a dark room. He thought about it for 15 hours straight, didn't eat or drink any water, and came out and said, Bernardo Silva, that's the way to win this game. No, that is the interesting thing.
That's what I'm saying. I
got to wrap up.
But no, you're right. No problem. Go ahead.
Sorry, it seems very rude the way I cut you off. Thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate it. It was great. OTB AM tomorrow morning. I have Keith Wood, Paddy Clifford and Daniel Harris. And then tomorrow evening, we've got Atletico Manchester United to keep an eye on. Andy Dunn will be in on Wednesday Night Rugby and more besides. Tom Dunn on the way next.